Good morning. You're watching Morning at NTV. We just had a brilliant discussion on the ICT capacity in Uganda. You can go on the hashtag Morning at NTV in case you missed parts of that conversation. We have some of it then. You can also leave your comments. And the discussion has now changed. A few days ago, we had a conversation about brand Uganda. And I asked, what are we well known for? What are we selling to the world? And the executive director, or the CEO actually, of Uganda Tourism Board, Stephen Esimwe, said, we're not really selling anything. We're selling everything. Uganda is like a supermarket. When you come here, you get a bit of everything. But next to gorillas, these, well, they're endangered species, but it's probably the most popular primate that we are having here, and that is chimpanzees. I had the privilege of going not just once but a couple of times to Ngamba Island, and I'm stunned. 98%, these are really our cousins, to be honest. I notice the food they're eating, the same food I eat. Their actions, they understand you, and sometimes you wonder what happened between us and them to then end up that way. That is for chimpanzees. So 20 years of Ngamba Island is being celebrated today. So I thought I'd call the executive director of Ngamba Island, Lilly Ajarova. Good morning.
Good morning.
You and I have met a couple of times. You have so much passion for chimpanzees. And I know we've had a small discussion here and there about how you eventually ended up into this, because it's almost like home for you.
Yes, it is.
It is home.
It is.
It is home. Ngamba Island, nobody talks about Ngamba Island and doesn't mention Lilly. It is really your home. But just to introduce you to the Ugandan who will eventually, we will talk about Ngamba Island. Let's talk about Lilly Ajarova. Where does this interest come from? You told me you're from Nebi.
I'm from Nebi,
West
Nile.
West Nile.
Yes.
So where do you then eventually find the interest to find a home with chimpanzees?
I think for me it started from when I was 6 years, and lots of visits to Marcetian Falls National Park. Oh. That's where...
You're better than most of us who don't visit these things even in our old age.
Yeah. My home was like 1 hour drive to Marcetian Falls, so I always had the privilege to travel with the family, but also school trips to Marcetian Falls. And it started with the elephants. You know, the first animal that I really encountered was a mother elephant, you know, had just given birth.
Oh, wow.
You know, the trumpet she blew just next to us, and I was looking at this huge, it just looked like, oh my God, this is just the biggest living thing I've ever seen, a 6-year-old. So that was quite impressive, you know, and the way she was trying to protect the baby. That was the first experience, you know.
At just 6 years, imagine.
Yeah, and then most times we went to the top of the falls, we saw the giraffes, and really if I have to trace my interest in wildlife, that's it. That's where it started from. Yeah. So the frequent visit to the national parks, and then, you know, built up on it, you know.
You actually took this on as a career. Tell us about that later on, after 6 years. I know you worked with now it's UWEC. So it was Uganda Wildlife Authority. Yes. What were you doing with the Uganda Wildlife Authority?
I actually, you know, after my my undergraduate degree at Makerere University, where I did psychology and sociology, I picked interest in tourism, and I went and studied tourism in Austria. So when I got back and then went into the mainstream business of tourism, working with the tour company and then moving on to Uganda Wildlife Authority, that's really where it all started for me.
Yeah, interesting. We're looking at Ngamba Island here on the screen. You'll see a bit of Lilly there with her friends. I don't know if you know she calls them chimps anymore. They have names. They're your children. You know, so she has names for them, and so it's an attachment. And we will discuss on why that attachment actually can be, you know, had by any of us with these chimps. But you actually with Uganda Wildlife Authority saw a lot more wildlife. It wasn't just one, you know, it wasn't the primates or anything. So I'm thinking, where does your journey into Ngamba Island start? And then perhaps you can explain to us how that comes to then be Ngamba Island itself. Yeah.
Well, when I started with Uganda Wildlife Authority, it was actually with the mountain gorillas.
Yes.
So I was the tourism development manager after graduating from a tourism school in Europe. So got on to working to set up the mountain gorilla tourism business for Uganda. And once that was moving on very well, then the next thing was we need to get the chimps, you know, as a product as well.
Yes.
And got to work in, you know, with the researchers in Kibale National Park to habituate and get the tourism guidelines put in place and organize the guides and all that.
Yeah.
But one of those experiences in Kibale National Park is really what got me to get to the chimpanzees in particular. So there was this day when we were walking out in the forest trying to find, you know, trails that we would establish for the tourism walks in the forest. And we're in the middle of nowhere in the forest. And suddenly we encountered two groups of wild chimpanzees who were fighting. And we had to take cover, but very interestingly, we were able to watch what was going on.
Their behaviors.
Their behaviors.
Wow, okay.
And that was serious fight. It was real battlefield.
If they're chimpanzees are 98% human, that means they're fighting just like you would have Golola in a ring with someone.
Absolutely, absolutely. There was, you know, killing as well, ready to kill.
Wow.
You know, to defend, you know,
territories.
Yes. And at one point we watched, there were the two big males, which I believe were the alphas of the two groups, got one-on-one. And one just, you know, plunged the teeth into the lower arm of the other one and pulled out. Yeah. And there was, of course, a lot of pain. And suddenly there was a twist of movement that the one who was injured turned around and started looking around, you know, for a particular plant.
Okay, okay.
And then he suddenly got this plant and grabbed
Put it on the
leaves, grabbed the leaves full in the hands and started crushing. Meanwhile, blood was gushing out from the point.
So imagine that. They even know which plant is best for which wound, which illness will stop bleeding, will cover a wound. Yeah. Ideally, as humans should know these things too, but you know, we walk around our gardens and ignore what you know we should be knowing or not. But of course, I think it's also adaptation. I mean, they live in the wild. They would know which plants are to be eaten, which ones are not to be eaten. So then, tell me about Ngamba Island itself. When does it get formed? What was the purpose? And because I know they're endangered species, what numbers you started with, where we are now?
Yeah, so just to piece it up, so seeing that was what got my interest. I really want to know more about these animals, about the chimpanzees. If they could do that, then there's more I need to discover about what they are capable of doing.
Yes.
Of course, I was working with Uganda Wildlife Authority at that time, and then immediately, well, shortly after that, they needed the executive director to run the Ngamba project.
Okay.
So that's how I end up there. But Ngamba started in 1998. Okay. There were already about 10 chimpanzees on Ngamba Island in Queen Elizabeth National Park. Yes. It was such a small island that the vegetation was all gone in no time. Yeah. So that was what prompted the need to establish, you know, a bigger
territory for them.
Yes, and the concept of an island also came from Izinga Island because the 10 were there before. Yes. So they were brought to UWEC at the Wildlife Education Center in Entebbe, and there are a few others there, about 15 of them. They were integrated. So on the 16th of October 1998, the whole group were taken to Ngamba Island. So we started with 15 of them. Okay. And now we have a population of 49.
So and 15 to 49.
Yeah, and these are all rescued orphan chimpanzees.
Oh, okay. So which means they came to you at different ages, in different situations and circumstances. Yeah. But there's a time I went to Ngamba and actually found a baby chimp. So some came as babies or some have been born at the island?
We have only 3 who
that were born at the island.
On the island. Yes. And this is actually as a result of contraceptive failure.
Oh, okay. So that's another thing. You don't want these chimpanzees to have children.
Well, it's with the principle that the chimpanzees belong to the wild. Okay. Ngamba is not a natural habitat for them. So we are providing a second home to the best of
that we can
for the rescued ones. So to try and increase the population, you know, in captivity is not the right thing. We should be increasing the population in the wild.
So let me just use a mediocre mind and ask this question. If they're endangered species, we want this number, if we can, to maintain it, not to lose the number. If we can, shouldn't we want to increase the number in any way that we can?
Well, we just need to understand the technicalities of trying to get a population from a captive environment and taking them to a wild environment. It doesn't work very easily.
So you're telling me if a chimp is born at Ngamba Island, that's a different habitat, obviously.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you raise it for a certain time to then take it to the wild, it'll be harder for it to adapt.
Well, because chimpanzees are very territorial.
Okay.
So even if you took a group of them from Ngamba
To the wild.
to the wild,
Even if
and
they're older.
yes, yes. I mean, I was just
Yes.
explaining the protection of
Yes,
territories
yes,
by
yes,
each
yes.
community. So that is the technicality, that it's not easy to just pick one chimpanzee and try and introduce into a community.
Even if it's a baby. Because I'm thinking you integrate it when it's still young, no?
Yes, but if the baby is born at Ngamba Island, then you will have to take the mother as well. Why
Yes,
would you
yes,
want
yes.
to orphan the baby
Yeah.
again
Wow.
by
Okay.
leaving the mother on the island and taking the baby to the wild?
So it's still tough.
Yes,
it's still
it
tough.
is.
So at 49 chimps now, orphaned chimps, in the long run, what do you see in terms of numbers since they're endangered species?
Well, our interest is really to stop the flow
Okay.
of the orphaned chimpanzees, you know, coming to the sanctuary. So beyond Ngamba Island, we do environmental education
Okay.
in the communities, especially in the areas where they exist,
Okay.
you know, naturally, which is mainly the western part.
And
of
what are you
Uganda.
telling these communities? You're teaching them what the chimpanzees are. You're teaching them that they're part of tourism. Because I'd be very keen, because if you explain to me, Flavia, who's in Kampala, the importance of chimpanzees to our tourism, I'll get it. I'm thinking the person in these communities don't understand it from that angle.
Well, our environmental education is not just focused just on chimpanzees.
Yeah.
It's the whole ecosystem
Okay,
in which
okay.
the chimpanzees live in. It's the forest.
Yes.
Yeah, so we start
Don't cut down
by,
the trees.
yeah, we start by teaching the communities about the values of the forest.
Yes.
And in the forest, there are also the chimpanzees.
Yes.
Yeah, and what are the values of the chimpanzees besides the general picture of the values of the forest? Chimpanzees are quite critical, they're endangered, and the international people love to come
Yes.
and photograph them. So you have opportunity of selling them, you know, if you developed tourism. So at that local level, we are also trying to work with the communities to develop community tourism.
Yeah, I've been around Ngamba and there's a lot of green. So you haven't gotten issues of, people cutting down trees or people, trying to harm the environment, have you?
Not quite, because we have made the communities, the fishing villages surrounding Ngamba, partners in what we are doing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ngamba. You split 20 years today. When you say 20 years, I heard you mention it's something to do with October. So the 20 years is just a celebration today.
Yes,
it's just a
please.
symbol of a
Yes.
celebration. Okay,
Yes.
great. So 20 years. Ngamba Island, you explained to me, is run by the Chimpanzee Trust.
Yes.
The Chimpanzee Trust is what, an NGO?
It's an NGO.
It's an NGO that runs. When you say running, what does that mean? They fund?
Well, it's an NGO, so we mobilize the resources,
Great.
we have the staff, we have all the assets, to operate all the programs that we undertake.
But, I had a conversation with you when I was in Ngamba, and you said funding is still an issue. You need to feed. First of all, they feed just like us human beings. They eat the same fruits, the same food, which means it's tougher. If we're feeding humans, the population of Uganda is tough. I'm guessing it must be tougher. Are they eating at their metabolism might be different from us. Are they eating at the same rate? How many meals do they have a day?
We have spaced it out to 4 meals.
4
a day.
meals. I don't even have 4 meals a day. I'm just saying, I think maximum I have 3 meals. So they have 4 meals a day.
Yes.
But some of that is drinking, And then fruits, but it's still probably expensive. What's the biggest expense outside of food for the chimpanzees?
It's really maintaining the infrastructure.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, because we have Ngamba divided majorly in two parts.
Okay.
We have a small, the whole island is 100 acres. 5 acres is where we have the infrastructure for the staff quarters and then for the tourist camp.
Okay.
And then the 95 is the forest for the chimpanzees.
For the chimpanzees.
So to be able to maintain this properly and the relationship
Security
between us,
yes,
we have an electric fence. And that's a daily expense. Because some of the chimpanzees with their intelligence, I guess if they were, I would call them even engineers, electricians,
Yes.
They're able to go and manipulate.
So the same way as human beings manipulate electricity.
Yeah,
don't quote us. Chimpanzees do the same thing.
Luckily, we are working with solar.
So working with solar. So you mean they're able to find a way to remove that fence and actually escape?
If there are some individuals who are very
and that is the alpha chimpanzees, or
well, not necessarily the alpha.
Okay.
I mean, it's just like we all have different talents, and gifts. There are those, who are talented in working with their hands, to do electrical work.
That.
I have, Aikuru is one of our female chimps there. I think, in the human world, she would be a beautician. Because if you got to her, the first thing she would want is to look at your nails. If they're dirty, she would want you to give her time to clean it up.
Really?
If you're a lady and you have chipped off, nail polish, she will want to remove it. So you either have it all nicely done or you don't have it.
Okay, so we've seen caretakers. There you are with it. So you can actually get this close. I'm seeing on the screen, and the caretakers. Not everyone can get this close to these chimps.
No, you have to undergo a training.
Okay. Because look at you. You're just patting and holding hands. You're great friends. Is that the beautician?
No, that's a different one.
Okay, yes. So you undergo training.
Yes.
Isn't there a point where they can reject you even if you're well trained?
The chimpanzees understand us to the level that they can read your body language as well. Okay. So it's really dependent on how you respond to them and how you approach them. Then they will be able to, treat you accordingly.
And I'm assuming they also have emotions just like us. They're 98% human. So if I can get angry, a chimp can get angry. So they have those emotions?
We do have that. They, some of them, just like humans, some of us really have phobia for needles, for injections.
Yes.
And we have veterinarians.
You actually have a clinic.
Yeah, some of them have grudges on keep grudges on the veterinarians.
Okay, let me try to understand this. So we're used to injections. I used to hate my doctors when I was younger. And nowadays it's less injections because medicine has changed. But so when do you have a cycle for when they go to hospital? Unless, of course, it's an emergency and they're sick. What are the cycles? Why do they need to go? It's vaccinations?
Well, most times, actually, what we have is chimpanzees are very aggressive animals. We have to understand by nature. And among themselves, they injure each other all the time.
Yes, from fights.
Yes, from fights majorly. And most times our veterinarians are kept busy.
Oh, wow.
Stitching.
So if they put a needle, they'll know this doctor did this to me, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
Wow.
For individuals, not
everyone. Okay, so they're 98% humans, so they display emotions, the tactics. They're smart enough and intelligent enough to know all this. So let's talk about 20 years. First of all, for people who don't know, Lilly said that she has more foreign tourists than domestic tourists. It means us Ugandans have not yet taken it upon ourselves to visit Ngamba Island. In your experience over the years, why aren't Ugandans finding that much interest? Do they not know Ngamba Island exists? Do they know and find the cost is high? What's happening?
I think there's several reasons for that. One of them that stands out is there is also fear generally.
Fear of the chimpanzees?
No, fear of traveling on water, since we are on
also,
an island.
yes, we need to mention that it's an island. So to access Ngamba Island,
you have to use a boat.
A boat.
And
so you're saying us Ugandans fear water? This is bad.
I have had many people say,
really?
well, I would love to come,
but I'm not about to take a boat.
If I have to take a boat, that is a bit tough.
What's the alternative, though? They're not about to fly in, are they?
Well, you have to fly in. And
is it like you can fly in now?
It's accessible? But then it becomes expensive.
The cost, yes. And in terms of rates, you have international?
We have international rates and we have East African rates.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So an average Ugandan can come to Ngamba Island?
Yes, absolutely, at a much lower cost than the internationals. And for actually the experience at Ngamba itself, for Ugandan, is as little as $15.
Okay.
Yeah, which an international would be paying hundreds of dollars for. But what makes it more expensive is the transportation.
The transportation.
Yeah.
So tell me, if for those who've never been, just in a few words before we get into what the celebrations will be like, if I come to Ngamba Island, what's my experience? How long would it be? Is it a 3-day visit? I've been there a couple of times. I think it doesn't, a day is enough actually. You can do a day visit to Ngamba Island.
We have packages of half-day trips.
Yes.
Full day, which gives you more than half day, and then we have overnight experience as well. So we have accommodation cabins where you can actually spend the night, and it's becoming
more popular
that we are getting bookings for honeymooners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spend your honeymoon with the chimps. Why not? And in terms of funding, the private sector can also be part of it. People can actually invest or fund in any way?
Yes, we still have opportunity of expanding the tourism development at Ngamba. So we are actually right now looking for investment partners, you know, to build more accommodation facilities at Ngamba.
Right.
But we also, from the way we raise our income, is that we have different programs that you can become a partner by naming one of the chimpanzees.
Yes, I think I heard about that. Yes,
each one of them
has a name.
Yes. So when you name, you make, that's a legacy. You're living there, and so you make a contribution. You make a commitment for financial contribution for.
It's sort of like sponsoring a child, let's be honest.
Exactly,
I mean, that's the concept that you're using. Okay.
So which could be for the whole lifetime of the individual chimpanzee you have named, or it could be for a year.
So if I sponsor a chimp, do I get information about this chimpanzee?
All the time, yes. Incidental information. Yes. Otherwise, we do regular information on monthly basis that you get to know how your baby is doing.
Fantastic. So we've talked about funding, 20 years today. What are the celebrations about? And is there any sort of project or promotion you have that we can also take part in?
Well, Ngamba Island is 20 years. It's a milestone.
Big.
It's a milestone.
And you're now at 49 chimps.
At 49 chimps, more than the number is the fact that Ngamba is rated as a model sanctuary in Africa. Why are we a model sanctuary? The professionalism, the state of the facility that we have established at Ngamba Island, the training that we give our staff. You know, we are all Ugandans. Yes, originally we had some international people, you know,
working
do the
with
training, you know, but now we
But everyone working there is now Ugandan.
Is a Ugandan, and we are getting to now sell and also, you know, provide our expertise to other sanctuaries in Africa.
So research.
Research is one other key achievement we have made. Over the 20 years, we have done lots of behavioral research on the chimpanzees at Ngamba, which has hit the scientific publications. And we are helping the scientific world in understanding more about chimpanzees from the little community that we have at Ngamba Island.
What's happening today? What celebrations do you have?
We have a lineup of activities and events going throughout the year. We already started in February. 2 weekends ago, we had a media camp. So we had a great time with about 25 media people at Ngamba Island. This is ongoing. And from the engagement we had, we actually think we are going to make this an annual event.
Great,
because
great.
we all learnt a lot from each other. We had a great fun together. Today is a very big day for us.
Yes.
Really big, and I'm so excited personally. Yesterday, we received Dr. Jane Goodall, who is like Mother Teresa in the conservation world.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's here.
And she's on for the celebrations tonight?
Yes.
They're happening at Munyonyo?
At Speak Resort.
Yeah,
Munyonyo
but this is an
tonight.
invite only, I'm guessing.
Yes,
But
yes.
going forward, if someone wants to come by Ngamba Island before they get there, any website, anywhere they can get information, just to call and get the information?
Yes, we do have a website, www.ngambaisland.org.
Okay.
We have an office in Entebbe.
Okay.
In Entebbe town, right in the town center next to Stanbic Bank. We have Facebook account, Twitter, Instagram, and there's a lot of stories going on now. Lots of information,
sharing their stories.
We will be having a fundraising with a gala dinner tonight.
Okay.
What is the purpose of this? 20 years of Ngamba Island, we have done so many things, and I mean, I could list them
but
all,
the
but we actually pulled out 20 key achievements of Ngamba, which we'll be sharing with those who will be attending the dinner tonight.
Yeah.
But there's one thing we haven't achieved. There's no sustainability to what we are doing.
Okay.
So tonight we want to launch an endowment fund for Ngamba.
Okay.
So we want to call on everybody, to contribute to this. Every penny,
that they can.
I
like that you said that there's an office in Entebbe, and you're also on Facebook, and the website is open. So you know what? I advise you, even if you want to name a chimp, fund in any way, or be part of this sustainability and promotion, first go to Ngamba Island. I guess that's the start of it. So find your way to Ngamba Island, experience it. That way you see where your value is going to go. Thank you so much, Lilly Ajarova from Ngamba Island. Congratulations on 20 years and all the achievements. And I think you'll be back to tell us all the other achievements that are going on.
Yes, but also
as we wind up.
Wind out. It's very important for us to appreciate the presence of Dr. Jane Goodall in this country.
Yeah.
Why? Because she is an important figure for us in marketing the destination Uganda.
Okay.
Her presence here, I think for the media, I would make a call to you.
We'll be there.
There's a press conference tomorrow with her.
Yes.
What she says the world believes in, and her coming here to celebrate 20 years of Ngamba Island
is a key significance. Lilly, I'm so sorry we're pressed for time, but yes, she said there's a press conference tomorrow. The media will definitely be there. You're still watching Morning at NTV.